In quiet glow of evening, when day's noise fades and stillness settles, stories rise like lanterns to guide us into dreams. Tonight's story is not tale of battles alone, but of one young witch whose courage, intellect, and kindness shaped entire world. Hermione Granger, bright as candle flame in vast library, steady as lioness in heart of storm, remains one of Hogwarts' most enduring figures. Her journey, from eager child with books stacked high to minister for magic guiding generations, is woven of moments small and great. Each fact you'll hear is gentle step along her path, her love of learning, her fierce loyalty, her quiet sacrifices, her triumphs, both whispered and thunderous. Let these 75 truths unfold slowly, like pages of ancient book, carrying you not into noise of war, but into warmth of memory, soothing as lullaby beneath starlit sky. Hermione Jean Granger entered the world on September 19, 1979, born to two loving Muggle parents who worked as dentists. Her home was not filled with cauldrons or spell books, but with the hum of drills, the smell of fluoride, and shelves lined with ordinary novels. Yet even in such a world of clean teeth and tidy routines, Hermione stood out. She asked endless questions before she could properly read, curious about how the world worked, eager to know why the sky was blue, why leaves changed color, why stories could make hearts race. Her parents, though puzzled, cherished her brightness and gave her every book she desired. They could not have known that their daughter carried within her something rare, a spark of magic waiting to be discovered. In her family's quiet life, Hermione became a little star, glowing with intelligence, kindness, and determination. She was loved deeply, nurtured carefully, and allowed to grow into the sharp, thoughtful child she was meant to be. Even before wands and castles, her magic was visible in her endless curiosity, her careful attention to others, and the way she filled rooms with eagerness to learn. Magic often shows itself subtly in children. For Hermione, it flickered like candlelight in moments her parents could not explain. When she wanted a book on a high shelf, it sometimes tumbled into her arms before she touched it. When she concentrated hard on her homework, pens seemed to move faster, as though guided by unseen hands. And when she was upset, strange things happened. Lights flickered, doors banged shut without wind, papers scattered though no one had touched them. Her parents dismissed these as coincidences, yet Hermione felt something deeper. She sensed the world listening to her, bending ever so slightly to her will. Instead of frightening her, it thrilled her. She devoured even more books, certain that knowledge could explain anything, even the mysterious. She did not yet know the word witch, but she knew she was unusual, different in a way that was not bad but simply other. These early sparks of magic shaped her sense of wonder and sharpened her mind. While others might have been unnerved, Hermione was only curious, hungry to know what rules she had accidentally touched, and eager to master them once she understood what they were. Even before she could walk properly, Hermione was drawn to books like moths to flame. Her parents would find her sitting with picture books upside down, turning pages with tiny hands, babbling as though she were reading aloud. By the time she was 7, she had devoured novels that most children would not touch until adolescence. Stories gave her comfort, excitement, and a sense that the world was both wide and within reach. While other children played outside for hours, Hermione often curled in chairs, surrounded by stacks taller than she was, reading until her eyes ached. She memorized facts about history, science, myths, and fairy tales. She believed answers were always waiting in books, that no problem was unsolvable if one only studied enough. This faith and knowledge became her armor and her comfort, preparing her unknowingly for the magical world. When she finally received her Hogwarts letter, her love of books ensured that she was not afraid but thrilled. If the world was larger than she had ever imagined, then surely there must also be books explaining every part of it, waiting for her to open them. Hermione's intelligence often set her apart from other children. In classrooms, her hand always shot up first, eager to answer every question. Teachers praised her, yet classmates sometimes grew annoyed, calling her know-it-all. Though words stung, Hermione could not stop herself. Knowledge felt like treasure too precious to hide. Beyond intellect, her early sparks of magic separated her further. She noticed how friends never seemed to experience strange coincidences the way she did. When her parents tried to comfort her after an odd event, she sensed they were confused themselves. Loneliness touched her sometimes, the quiet feeling of being out of step with those around her. But Hermione did not retreat. She embraced her difference as challenge, deciding that if she was unusual, she would turn it into strength. She practiced speaking clearly, reading faster, and standing taller. Though she longed for true companionship, she was determined never to diminish herself for others' comfort. This early awareness planted the seed of resilience. It would serve her later at Hogwarts, where mudblood would be hurled at her, and where she would stand firm, proud of every part of who she was. On her 11th birthday, a letter arrived that would change Hermione's life forever. It was written in green ink upon thick parchment, sealed with the crest of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry. To her parents, it seemed impossible a school of magic. To Hermione, it was perfect. All the unexplained moments of her childhood, all the flickers of power, all the sense of difference suddenly, they had meaning. She was not strange. She was magical. She read the letter aloud again and again, savoring every word. For days afterward, she carried it everywhere, tucked into her bag, unfolding it in quiet moments as if to confirm it was real. Her parents, bewildered but supportive, agreed she should go. Hermione felt joy so deep it made her laugh aloud when no one was near. The world was not only wider than she thought, it was brighter. At last she belonged somewhere, a place where her endless questions might be answered. The letter was not just invitation, it was liberation. From that moment, Hermione's life turned toward magic, and she embraced it with the full force of her mind and heart. The magical world introduced itself to Hermione in a blaze of color and wonder. Accompanied by her parents, she stepped through the entrance into Diagon Alley and felt her breath catch. Shops lined crooked streets, owls hooted, cauldrons gleamed, and wands sparkled behind windows. Booksellers stacked volumes that towered higher than any Muggle bookstore she had ever seen. Hermione darted from shop to shop, eyes wide, questions spilling faster than her parents could answer. She bought her first set of robes, her first cauldron, her parchment and quills. Each object thrilled her, not just for its purpose, but for what it symbolized. Belonging. Flourish and Blots, the bookstore, enchanted her most. She begged her parents for extra volumes beyond the required list, wanting to know as much as possible before term began. She could not bear the thought of being unprepared. Her parents, indulgent, allowed her to carry armfuls home. Diagon Alley was not only market, it was promise. Every stone and spell whispered that she was stepping into destiny. For Hermione, the street was nothing short of a dream made real, one she would remember forever. In Ollivanders, Hermione found herself surrounded by shelves filled with wands, each humming faintly with power. Mr. Ollivander measured her arm, murmured observations, and handed her wand after wand. Sparks fizzled, air quivered, yet nothing quite matched until she grasped the one meant for her. Vine wood, dragon heartstring core, 10 3/4 inches, swishy. The moment her fingers closed around it, a warm thrill rushed through her, like recognition between old friends. Light shimmered, and Ollivander's pale eyes gleamed. "Curious," he said, noting the connection between dragon heartstring and destiny. Hermione hardly heard. She was too enthralled by the weight in her hand, the certainty that this was hers. She practiced swishes all the way home, though no spells yet came. To her, the wand symbolized more than magic. It was partnership, tool, and companion. She polished it, tucked it carefully in its box, and kept it close at night. Just as books had been her earliest treasures, now the wand joined them, symbol of her step into new world. She had always trusted her mind. Now she had something to focus her magic as well. At King's Cross Station, Hermione and her parents searched nervously for platform 9 3/4. When they finally saw others disappearing between platforms 9 and 10, they followed, stepping into a world of steam and scarlet paint. The train loomed, magnificent, filled with children clutching owls, trunks, and excitement. Hermione kissed her parents goodbye, promised to write often, and boarded with determination shining in her eyes. She wandered compartments, eager to meet new classmates, eager to belong. Though she sometimes came across as bossy, her heart was open, her longing for friendship real. She soon found herself in company of Harry and Ron, though their bond would grow slowly, tested by trials and strengthened by bravery. For Hermione, the train was more than transport, it was transformation. Each mile carried her further from ordinary life, deeper into a world where she was not strange but celebrated. The sound of whistle, the rhythm of wheels, the chatter of young voices, these became the music of her new beginning. The train ride etched itself into memory as doorway between two lives, one she was leaving and one she was running joyfully toward. Even after Diagon Alley, Hogwarts overwhelmed Hermione with its grandeur. The castle rose like dream from cliffs, windows glowing, towers stretching into sky. Inside, staircases moved of their own accord, portraits whispered, ghosts drifted, and the great hall shone with thousands of floating candles. Hermione's heart beat fast, not with fear but with awe. Here was proof that the extraordinary was ordinary, that wonders she had only read about lived and breathed around her. She tried to absorb every detail, eyes darting, ears straining to remember every word spoken by prefects and professors. To her, nothing was too small to matter. Every spell, every rule, every custom was treasure. She filled notebooks with observations, determined to master it all. While others giggled at magic sweets or gawked at ghosts, Hermione organized knowledge, filed it neatly in her mind. She wanted to excel, not from vanity, but from need. She had dreamed of this world, and she would not waste the chance to prove worthy of it. Magic was no longer abstract. It was real, glowing, and alive all around her. From the moment lessons began, Hermione set herself high standards. She memorized every textbook, practiced every spell, and recited every fact. She raised her hand at every opportunity, desperate not only to learn but to show that she belonged. She feared deep down that being Muggle-born might mark her as outsider. Excellence became her defense, knowledge her shield. If she could answer more questions than anyone, if she could cast spells flawlessly, then no one could doubt her worth. Though this eagerness sometimes made her classmates roll their eyes, Hermione pressed on. She was not seeking their approval so much as her own assurance that she was enough. Over time, her determination softened into confidence, and her brilliance became something others relied upon. But in those first months, her drive was fierce, unrelenting. She studied late, rose early, filled margins with notes. Magic was her new language, and she intended to speak it fluently. Her desire to prove herself was not arrogance, but longing to belong, to be accepted, to show the world that where one is born matters less than what one chooses to become. When Hermione sat upon the stool, and the sorting hat was lowered onto her head, it hesitated longer than she expected. Ravenclaw called strongly, whispering of books, intellect, and the pursuit of knowledge above all. But Gryffindor whispered too, promising challenge, daring, and the chance to turn intellect into bravery. Hermione argued quietly in her mind, wanting to prove herself clever, but deep down she longed to be brave. She did not want to live only in libraries. She wanted to act when it mattered. At last the hat agreed, announcing Gryffindor to the hall. She walked to her new table with flushed cheeks and a pounding heart. Though she sometimes wondered what life in Ravenclaw would have been, she never regretted the choice. Gryffindor would test her, stretch her, and give her friendships that defined her life. In courage, she found her true strength. In her early days at Hogwarts, Hermione's perfectionism was both strength and stumbling block. She completed homework days ahead of time, answered questions in class with confidence, and corrected mistakes of others. Teachers admired her, but classmates sometimes bristled at her eagerness. She earned the label insufferable know-it-all, words that stung more than she admitted. Behind her bossiness was insecurity, a muggle born in worlds she longed to master. Over-preparedness was her shield against feeling like imposter. Though her classmates rolled eyes, her diligence saved lives more than once. When trolls wandered castle, when mysteries unraveled, it was her knowledge that pointed paths forward. In time, friends would learn to see through surface sharpness to heart beneath, a girl who only wanted to belong, who feared rejection, and who believed learning was way to earn respect. The night of the mountain troll changed everything for Hermione. She had been hiding in bathroom, tears falling after cruel words. When danger crashed through doors, Harry and Ron came to save her, fumbling and terrified but unwilling to abandon her. Afterwards, when Professor asked why she was out of bed, Hermione lied to protect them, taking blame upon herself. For first time, she put friendship above rules. That lie sealed their bond. Harry, Ron, and Hermione, once awkward acquaintances, became inseparable. From then on, she was no longer alone in her brilliance. She had companions who accepted her, flaws and all. She still loved rules, but now she understood there were moments when loyalty mattered more. That night of broken stone and swinging clubs gave her what she had longed for most, true friends who would face danger with her. Hermione's academic brilliance was unmatched. She read ahead in every subject, mastered spells with enviable ease, and even corrected professors when they slipped. Charms, transfiguration, potions she excelled in all, though she often struggled with divination, dismissing it as imprecise. Her skill was not just natural talent but relentless effort. She practiced until her wand felt like extension of her arm. Knowledge was joy to her, but it was also lifeline. In each incantation mastered, each fact remembered, she secured her place in magical world. Others might tease her intensity, but when challenges came, enchanted chessboards, cursed diaries, cursed objects, it was often Hermione's mastery that saved them. She proved time and again that intellect was as powerful as wand work, that knowledge was not dryness but weapon of light. The library quickly became Hermione's sanctuary. Its towering shelves, whispering pages, and scent of old parchment felt like home more than common room ever could. She spent hours among books, copying notes, cross-referencing spells, chasing answers through indexes. Librarian Madame Pince grew accustomed to seeing her at first light and last bell. While others lounged by fire, Hermione sought quiet corners of stacks. There she found comfort, not loneliness. Each book was companion, each fact another stone laid in bridge toward mastery. Yet library was not mere escape, it was battlefield. When mysteries plagued the school, when secrets lurked in shadows, Hermione always turned first to books, and more often than not, answers waited for her. To her, knowledge was form of courage. Within walls of library, she armed herself not with sword but with understanding, and with that understanding she was ready to face world's dangers. Hermione respected rules deeply at first, believing they safeguarded learning. She polished prefect badges before she ever earned one, recited school regulations by heart, and disapproved of rule-breaking. Yet life at Hogwarts challenged her. Slowly she realized rules could not always protect against danger, nor ensure justice. When Harry and Ron broke curfew to save lives, when secrets hid behind locked doors, when truth demanded risk, she joined them. Each broken rule troubled her at first, but courage grew stronger than fear of punishment. She learned balance. Rules were guides, not chains. Her shift was subtle but profound. She never stopped valuing structure, yet she discovered that wisdom meant knowing when to bend it. That lesson defined her Gryffindor spirit, not abandoning order, but placing heart above regulation. Hermione's bravery revealed itself during first quest for Philosopher's Stone. She faced enchanted obstacles, not only with wand but with mind. When Devil's Snare threatened, she remembered plants' weakness to light and flame. When Potion's puzzle blocked path, she calmly reasoned through riddle that might have stumped adults. She proved that courage was not always leaping blindly, but trusting intellect under pressure. Standing beside Harry and Ron, she acted decisively, unshaken though danger loomed. This balance between knowledge and daring became her signature. Gryffindor celebrated daring, but Hermione showed that mind could be as bold as sword. Without her, the journey would have ended early. Her role was never side note, it was essential, proof that cleverness and courage need not stand apart, but together form truest kind of heroism. Loyalty came naturally to Hermione, though she did not always show it gently. She nagged her friends about homework, scolded them for laziness, and often grew exasperated. Yet beneath sternness was devotion unbreakable. She stood by Harry when world doubted him, supported Ron when insecurities overwhelmed him, defended Hagrid against ridicule, and even advocated for house elves whom others ignored. Her loyalty was not blind. She challenged friends when they were wrong, but she never abandoned them. When danger came, she walked into it beside them, wand raised, heart steady. Friendship to her was not convenience, but bond sacred, worth sacrifice. That loyalty, fierce and uncompromising, became lifeline for the trio. Many battles were survived because Hermione refused to let go, because she anchored her friends when storms threatened to scatter them. Hermione's role in the trio often made her the planner, the strategist, the thinker. Harry had instinct, Ron had heart, but Hermione carried map and compass. When puzzles arose, she pieced clues together. When chaos threatened, she imposed order. Some might have resented weight of always leading, yet Hermione embraced it because she could not bear to let others fall unprepared. She foresaw dangers, stocked supplies, memorized spells. Her presence gave the trio balance, preventing rashness from turning fatal. Though she sometimes feared being overlooked beside Harry's fame, she never let that diminish her commitment. She knew their victories belonged not to one but to all three, and her contributions were thread that held tapestry together. Without her guidance, their path would have been far darker. With her, it became survivable. In her first year, Hermione began to realize that courage was not only for knights or warriors, but for anyone willing to face truth. She once believed intelligence was everything, that books held all answers, but when Troll threatened, when friends stood beside her, she saw that bravery lived in choices, not facts. Knowledge could guide wand, but heart guided hand. This understanding deepened each year, shaping her into witch admired not only for brilliance but for compassion. By end of her first year, Hermione had grown beyond studious girl, desperate to prove herself. She had become friend, partner, lion-hearted ally. Her journey was only beginning, but already she embodied lesson that courage and cleverness together formed power far greater than either alone. That truth would carry her through every year to come. In her third year, Hermione was entrusted with one of the most unusual objects at Hogwarts, a time turner. The delicate hourglass, strung on chain, allowed her to travel back through hours of the day, attending multiple classes at once. For Hermione, it was thrilling and exhausting, a perfect reflection of her drive to learn everything possible. She carried it close, keeping it secret, using it with precision. Few adults could have borne the strain of such responsibility, yet she managed it with steady resolve. The time turner symbolized trust, proof that professors recognized her discipline, yet it also showed her limits. Sleep-deprived and overburdened, she learned that even she could not do everything. When the device later allowed her and Harry to save both Sirius Black and Buckbeak, it revealed its true worth, not just for lessons, but for lives. The time turner became one of the rarest treasures she ever held, a tool that proved her intellect could shape destiny. Still, she remembered the exhaustion it caused, a lesson that knowledge, like time, must be managed wisely. It was one of many moments when Hermione carried responsibility far beyond her years. Hermione's compassion often appeared in causes others dismissed. During fourth year, she became horrified at treatment of house elves, magical beings bound in servitude, often mistreated and unacknowledged. While others shrugged, Hermione founded the Society for the Promotion of Elfish Welfare, or SPEW. Her friends teased her for clumsy acronyms and knitted hats, but Hermione's passion was genuine. She saw injustice where others saw tradition. Though her campaign did not win immediate success, it revealed her heart, unwilling to ignore suffering simply because it was normalized. Her activism was early glimpse of woman she would become advocate for justice, fighter for rights. Even when others rolled eyes, she persisted, convinced that compassion mattered. In time, her values influenced wider change. Though SPEW was mocked at school, the seed it planted grew into reforms she championed as adult. This persistence showed her true courage, not only battling visible enemies, but challenging quiet injustices that others ignored. Prejudice touched Hermione deeply when she was called mudblood, cruel insult for Muggle-borns. The word stung, heavy with centuries of hate, yet rather than break her, it steeled her. She held head high, refusing to let insult define her. Her brilliance became answer to those who sneered, her courage, her triumph. Where others might have hidden, Hermione shone brighter. She refused to accept hierarchy of blood. Each spell she mastered, each victory she achieved, was proof that worth came from heart and effort, not heritage. The insult followed her through years, whispered by Slytherins, shouted by foes, yet she never surrendered pride in her roots. By standing proud, she gave voice to countless others marginalized in wizarding world. She turned slur into badge of resilience, refusing to bow. Her strength taught Harry and Ron, too, that injustice must always be confronted. Hermione never feared standing against bullies, no matter how powerful. Draco Malfoy's taunts were constant, his arrogance matched only by cruelty. For years she endured his words, until one day anger overcame restraint. Outside Hagrid's hut, in third year, her hand flew almost before she realized, striking Draco across the face. The slap echoed more loudly than any spell, symbol not of violence but of refusal to be belittled further. It shocked Draco, it stunned her friends, but it showed her fiery side. Hermione, so often patient, would not accept endless cruelty. That moment revealed her temper, but also her dignity. She would not shrink from confrontation, not even with pure-blood heir sneering at her heritage. The memory of that slap carried her through later battles, reminder that even gentlest heart has claws when pressed. By second year, Hermione had already shown mastery of magic far beyond her age. When others struggled with spells, she performed them effortlessly. She brewed Polyjuice Potion, advanced brew few adult wizards would attempt, carefully managing ingredients over weeks. Though the experiment ended with her temporarily transforming into part cat, it still proved her daring. She was not afraid of failure if it meant discovery. Her skill in charms was remarkable, often casting with precision that left professors impressed. Transfiguration, too, came naturally, wand work smooth and assured. She did not simply memorize, she understood. Magic responded to her because she respected it, studied it, and approached it with both logic and reverence. This brilliance made her target of jealousy, but it also ensured her friends always turned to her in crises. Her ability was more than talent. It was discipline refined. Hermione's role in uncovering Chamber of Secrets was vital, even while she lay petrified. Before being attacked, she had discovered truth hidden in pages. That monster was basilisk, that it traveled through pipes, that mirrors and water had saved lives. Clutching page torn from book, she had solved mystery others could not. Though she could not speak, her discovery gave Harry and Ron path to follow. Even immobilized, her intellect saved the school. When she awoke months later, she was greeted with cheers, her presence sorely missed. This episode showed how her mind worked like lantern in darkness, shining even when she herself was silent. Her preparation, her research, her insistence on answers, all of it had once again proved indispensable. Courage was not always in wand raised, but in page studied and truth revealed. Hermione's bond with Harry and Ron deepened as years passed. She became sister to Harry, grounding him when burden of fame pressed heavily. She became partner to Ron, their bickering masking affection that grew stronger with each trial. To both, she was voice of reason, shield against recklessness. She listened when Harry doubted, encouraged when Ron faltered, and stood by when either stumbled. Friendship was not simple, but it was steadfast. Avena Lane. Together, the trio embodied balance, heart, instinct, and mind woven together. Hermione never considered abandoning them, not even when danger grew unbearable. She believed loyalty mattered above comfort, and she lived that belief every day. Her friendships defined her as much as her intellect did. Without them, she would still have been brilliant. With them, she was extraordinary. When Dumbledore's army formed in fifth year, Hermione was one of its true architects. She persuaded Harry to teach, recruited students, and organized meetings. She even devised enchanted coins to signal gatherings, a charm so clever it impressed even adults later. In Secret Room, students practiced spells under Harry's guidance, but it was Hermione's persistence that kept group alive. She believed preparation was only way to resist growing darkness. Her leadership, though quiet, gave classmates courage. They learned to defend themselves because she refused to let them remain helpless. For many, her work in DA meant survival during later battles. She never claimed spotlight, but her influence was undeniable. She taught others what she believed fiercely. Knowledge was shield, practice was armor, and courage could be nurtured in all who were willing to learn. At Yule Ball, Hermione stunned classmates by appearing transformed. Dressed in periwinkle robes, hair sleek, she descended staircase with grace few had noticed before. Ron gawked, Harry blinked, others whispered. For Night, she was not only studious girl buried in books, she was radiant young woman, confident and elegant. Yet beneath beauty was deeper lesson. She had always been remarkable. Ball did not create her worth. It simply revealed it to those who had overlooked it. She danced with Victor Crumb, enjoyed evening, and showed that she could balance intellect with joy. Still, tension with Ron lingered, their feelings unspoken but stirred. The ball reminded all that Hermione was not defined by grades or rules alone. She was complex, vibrant, capable of brilliance in classroom and brilliance on dance floor. Hermione's patience with friends' flaws was remarkable. Harry's temper, Ron's insecurities, both often tested her. Yet she endured, scolding but never abandoning. She helped Harry through nightmares of prophecy, steadied Ron through jealousy and doubt. She saw their weaknesses and loved them still. She believed friendship was not about perfection but persistence. Even when arguments flared, her loyalty endured. She forgave quickly, choosing bond over pride. Her patience was quiet form of bravery, willingness to stay when others might walk away. She accepted that love meant frustration, that loyalty meant endurance. Through this, she taught her friends what true companionship required. Without her patience, Trio might have fractured. With it, they remained whole, strong enough to face destiny together. Hermione's resilience shone in every trial, but perhaps nowhere clearer than during nights she carried fear quietly. While others sometimes panicked, Hermione steadied herself with preparation. In third year, when Dementors haunted the grounds, she practiced the Patronus charm, though it was far beyond ordinary coursework. Her first attempts flickered faintly, but she never quit. She believed that if darkness existed, light could be learned to counter it. Though her Patronus was not as famous as Harry's, it was proof of her perseverance. Courage for her was not sudden roar but steady heartbeat, step after step, even when shadows loomed. Her resilience reminded friends that not all bravery is loud. Sometimes it is persistence, refusal to give up, quiet belief that if they kept going, they would find way through. Hermione often stood as voice of conscience. When Harry's anger threatened to lead him astray, she urged him toward patience. When Ron let envy cloud judgment, she gently but firmly reminded him of loyalty. She was not always gentle in tone, her sharpness could sting, but her intention was always pure. She cared deeply, and caring meant telling truth, even when it was unwelcome. In their darkest hours, her steady moral compass prevented mistakes that might have cost dearly. Her guidance was not flawless, but it was rooted in integrity. Friends trusted her, even when they bristled, because they knew her advice came from love and wisdom. In this role, she proved that courage sometimes means speaking hard truths, standing firm when silence would be easier. She embodied moral bravery as much as physical daring. In fourth year, Hermione's defense of Harry during Triwizard Tournament displayed her loyalty fiercely. While Ministry doubted him, while classmates wore badges mocking him, she never wavered. She researched spells, strategized, encouraged him when fear gnawed. She refused to abandon him to isolation, even when it meant facing ridicule herself. At the same time, she challenged Ron for doubting Harry, demanding he see truth. Her unwavering belief anchored Harry through tasks that might have broken him. Later, when Voldemort returned, her trust was vindicated. She had seen clearly when others were blind, proving her courage lay not only in facing monsters, but in refusing to doubt friend. To Hermione, faith in those she loved was a form of bravery too. It was not blind faith, it was reasoned, chosen, and unbreakable. Though Hermione admired professors, she was unafraid to stand against them when necessary. In third year, she questioned Professor Trelawney's predictions, openly dismissing subject as imprecise. In fifth year, she opposed Umbridge, despising her cruelty and challenging her authority. Even with McGonagall, whom she deeply respected, Hermione voiced opinions when she believed students' needs were overlooked. Speaking against authority was never easy for a rule-loving student, yet her sense of justice outweighed her fear. Each time she raised her voice, she embodied courage of conviction. Authority meant little to her when it clashed with morality. This willingness to question taught others that even revered teachers could err, and that responsibility lay in thinking for oneself. Hermione's respect was earned, not automatic. That balance of admiration and discernment showed wisdom rare in one so young. Hermione's intellect often saved her friends in moments of chaos. During challenges in Philosopher's Stone Chamber, it was she who solved Potion Riddle, allowing Harry to continue. During Hunt for Horcruxes, it was she who remembered enchantments, who read ancient texts, who thought ahead to pack tent, food, supplies. In every crisis, Hermione's mind acted as light cutting through fog. She combined memory, reasoning, and intuition to see patterns others missed. Her contributions were so constant that friends sometimes took them for granted, yet without her, paths would have ended in disaster. She proved that knowledge is not dry, but living, breathing power. Her cleverness was never trivial, it was survival. She transformed intellect into shield, puzzle solving into act of bravery. In doing so, she redefined what it meant to be hero. Hermione's sense of balance grew as she matured. Where once she clung rigidly to rules, she learned flexibility. Where once she valued knowledge above all, she discovered compassion's equal worth. She became bridge between extremes, Harry's instinct and Ron's heart on one side, discipline and logic on other. This balance gave Trio strength unmatched. Hermione reminded Harry to think before acting, yet encouraged him when fear threatened paralysis. She reassured Ron when doubt overwhelmed, yet pushed him to rise higher. She learned, too, to forgive herself when perfection slipped. Her balance was not innate but earned, product of years of mistakes, lessons, and growth. By adolescence, she had become not just student but leader, embodying harmony between mind and heart. This equilibrium defined her adulthood, making her voice trusted and wise. Hermione's devotion to study was not merely ambition, it was sanctuary. Books offered her safety, predictability, and answers when the world felt chaotic. As Muggle-born, she sometimes felt outsider. Pages reassured her that knowledge could equalize. Each fact learned was step toward belonging. Yet books were more than armor. They were joy. She loved scent of parchment, thrill of discovery, satisfaction of mastered charm. In Hogwarts' shifting staircases and whispering corridors, library became place where she felt most at peace. Even in war, when camping in forests, she clung to volumes she had packed, refusing to let go of Lifeline. Her love of books symbolized deeper truth, that curiosity and wonder are forms of courage too. To her, learning was not retreat from world but preparation to change it. Though Hermione often seemed confident, she carried insecurities. She worried about being outsider, about not being accepted, about being overlooked beside Harry's fame and Ron's humor. Sometimes she masked these fears with bossiness, sometimes with relentless work. Yet her insecurities humanized her, showing that even brightest minds doubt themselves. Over years, she learned to accept flaws, to see that worth was not in perfection but in persistence. She grew comfortable in her own skin, though doubts never vanished fully. These vulnerabilities made her relatable, even as her brilliance dazzled. She showed that heroes are not free of fear. They simply refuse to let fear rule. Her journey of self-acceptance was as courageous as any duel, as vital as any battle. It proved that bravery begins within. Hermione often mediated conflicts between Harry and Ron. Their tempers clashed, their pride sparked quarrels, but Hermione refused to let friendship shatter. She soothed, reasoned, scolded, and sometimes simply waited until anger cooled. Without her, their trio might have fractured under weight of stress. She believed unity mattered more than momentary grievances. Even when Ron stormed away, she stood by Harry, grieving absence but refusing to abandon mission. Later, she welcomed Ron back, her forgiveness bridging gap. This role of mediator required patience and strength, for she bore emotional weight quietly, yet she never complained. Friendship, to her, was commitment worth every effort. She embodied resilience of bond, ensuring that despite arguments and departures, their trio endured. Her presence was glue that bound them through storms. Hermione became moral compass not only for friends but for entire school at times. Her advocacy for house elves, her insistence on fairness, her sharp criticisms of corruption, these shaped attitudes of those around her. Even when mocked, she refused silence. Her example inspired others to think critically, to question injustice, to stand firm. She was not perfect, yet her principles were constant. She believed power must serve justice, knowledge must serve compassion. These convictions grew stronger with age, culminating in career where she changed laws and guided society. But even as student, her compass pointed true. Others trusted her because she spoke with sincerity, acted with consistency, and lived her values daily. She reminded peers that courage was not only in battle but in quiet choices, lived faithfully each day. In the Department of Mysteries, Hermione fought in her first true battle. Surrounded by whirling spells and crashing shelves, she stood shoulder to shoulder with friends, casting defensive charms with skill that belied her age. For all her preparation, the chaos was overwhelming, yet she held firm. When curse struck her, knocking her unconscious, Harry and others feared the worst. Her bravery that night was not just in dueling but in showing up at all, choosing to risk herself for truth. The scars of that night were not only physical but emotional, for she tasted danger more vivid than any classroom. Yet she did not waver. The Department of Mysteries marked her passage from student to fighter, proof that her courage was not theoretical but lived. She faced darkness with wand steady, heart true. When Voldemort's return grew undeniable, Hermione made a choice that revealed her courage most painfully. She erased her parents' memories. To protect them from being hunted as leverage against her, she sent them away with false identities, convinced they were ordinary travelers in far country. The act broke her heart, for it severed her from those who had loved her first. Yet she believed sacrifice was necessary, that their safety mattered more than her own comfort. Few acts in war demanded more strength than that quiet one. She gave up her family, trusting someday she might restore them. Her courage was not roar of battle but ache of loss endured willingly. That decision showed depth of her love and the fierceness of her will to protect even at cost of her own happiness. During months of camping with Harry and Ron, Hermione carried heaviest weight. She packed supplies, cast protective charms, maintained wards that kept them hidden. Every night she traced careful circles around camp, whispering enchantments while others slept. She read by dim light, searching for clues about Horcruxes. Tension frayed friendships, yet she held them together as long as she could. When Ron left in anger, Hermione stayed, though grief nearly tore her apart. She chose to remain by Harry's side, knowing task mattered more than comfort. Her endurance in wilderness showed that heroism is not only in battles but in cold nights, sleepless watches, and burdens quietly borne. She was backbone of mission, unseen but essential. Without her steady magic, their journey might have ended before it began. Hermione's courage shone at Malfoy Manor, where she was captured and tortured for information. Though pain lanced through her, she refused to betray friends. Her screams echoed through halls, yet her resolve never broke. That endurance became turning point proof that her bravery was not only academic, not only in planning, but in soul deep enough to withstand cruelty. When rescue came, she was scarred but unbroken, her loyalty intact. In later years, she rarely spoke of ordeal, carrying it with quiet strength, yet it shaped her profoundly. She understood cost of war more than most, having suffered in her own body. Her silence on matter was not weakness but resilience, proof that some scars need not define but can instead deepen empathy. Her survival inspired those who loved her. Even in darkest moments, Hermione kept clarity of mind. At Malfoy Manor, while others reeled from fear, she remembered to seize wand from fallen foe. At Gringotts she improvised polyjuice disguise, adapting swiftly to changing circumstances. In Forest, she recalled spells that shielded them from detection. Her quick thinking saved lives again and again. Panic never consumed her. Her mind, honed by years of discipline, remained sharp even when heart pounded. This clarity was as much weapon as wand. Her friends trusted her judgment because she could see paths where others saw only walls. In war, intellect became survival. Hermione showed that brilliance was not classroom ornament but battlefield necessity, that calm thought could mean difference between capture and escape. Her wisdom was shield that never faltered. Hermione offered emotional strength to Harry during long, weary hunt. She listened when despair weighed on him, reminded him of hope when he doubted. She spoke truths gently but firmly, grounding him when grief threatened to consume. Their bond deepened into something like siblingship, unshakable and tender. She believed in him wholly, not because prophecy demanded it, but because she knew his heart. She steadied him without demanding spotlight, content to support. This quiet faith became Harry's lifeline, allowing him to press forward when weight felt unbearable. Hermione's courage lay not only in spells, but in compassion, willingness to shoulder friends' burden, to remind him he was not alone. That kind of strength, invisible yet essential, made her hero in truest sense. Throughout war, Hermione's heart remained gentle. Even as enemies hunted them, she mourned lives lost on both sides. She grieved for creatures harmed, for students suffering, for innocence caught in crossfire. Her empathy did not weaken her, it made her resolve fiercer. She fought not for victory's sake, but to protect lives, to end cruelty. She could have hardened herself into cold soldier, yet she chose compassion again and again. This balance of steel and tenderness made her extraordinary. She proved that kindness could endure even amid war, that heart need not be sacrificed to survive. Her gentleness reminded friends what they were fighting for, not just survival, but world where love and fairness could flourish again. When time came for final battle, Hermione stood at Hogwarts without hesitation. She fought alongside students, teachers, and friends, casting spells with precision and ferocity. She shielded younger students, defended hallways, and refused to retreat. Her bravery was not reckless, it was purposeful, guided by will to protect. She did not fight for glory but for future. Each spell she cast was declaration that darkness would not win, that knowledge and compassion would not yield. Her presence inspired others, proof that brilliance could be both scholar's gift and warrior's strength. In those hours of chaos, Hermione embodied all she had learned, intellect sharpened by courage, heart guided by justice. She was no longer student but defender of school that had given her everything. During that same battle, Hermione displayed leadership beyond her years. She coordinated with Ron, strategized with Harry, guided others through confusion. Her voice cut through noise, calm and commanding. Younger students looked to her for direction, and she gave it with steadiness that belied fear inside. Her leadership was not loud, but it was confident, born of years of preparation. She knew spells, she knew strategy, but more than that, she knew how to inspire. People trusted her because she had always lived her values. In heat of battle, that trust became strength. Her guidance helped turn chaos into coordinated resistance, proof that her role was not sidekick but pillar. In final reckoning, she was as much leader as Harry. Hermione's unshakable loyalty to cause defined her. From first year to final battle, she never once considered abandoning fight. She endured insults, pain, loss, and fear, yet her resolve did not waver. Loyalty for her was not mere sentiment. It was chosen commitment, renewed each day in every action. She could have walked away, returned to parents, hidden from war, but she chose to stand, again and again. That loyalty carried Trio through their journey, held school together during battle, inspired others to resist. Her courage was fierce, but her loyalty was fiercer still. It was foundation upon which everything else stood. Without it, victories would have crumbled. With it, triumph was possible. Hermione showed that truest bravery is staying, even when leaving would be easier. When war ended, Hermione's first act was not celebration but restoration. She returned to Australia to find her parents, whose memories she had altered. Carefully, gently, she lifted enchantment, restoring them to themselves. Tears flowed freely as recognition filled their eyes. The reunion was tender proof of sacrifice undone, bond renewed after years of distance. For Hermione, it was moment of healing, though scars of separation lingered. She learned that courage sometimes means undoing choices made in desperation, facing consequences of past with humility. In reuniting with her parents, she reclaimed part of herself that war had forced her to surrender. It was quiet victory, far from battlefields but no less profound. Her parents welcomed her home, proud of daughter who had saved world, though she had saved them first. After Hogwarts, Hermione pursued career at Ministry of Magic, determined to change laws that had allowed prejudice to flourish. She began in Department for Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, championing rights for house elves, centaurs, and other beings long mistreated. Though colleagues sometimes dismissed her as idealistic, Hermione persisted with same determination that had carried her through school. She drafted proposals, argued passionately in meetings, refused to accept indifference. Her voice, sharp and reasoned, began to shift opinions. Where SPEW had been mocked, her professional efforts gained traction. In time, she rose to Department of Magical Law Enforcement, wielding influence to reshape wizarding society. Her brilliance and integrity made her formidable force, admired even by rivals. She proved that battles for justice continue long after war's end, fought not with wands but with words and laws. Hermione's marriage to Ron Weasley grew from years of friendship, bickering, and shared danger. Their bond, forged in fire, blossomed into family. Together they built life filled with warmth, laughter, and occasional quarrels. Hermione cherished Ron's humor, his loyalty, his ability to ground her when perfectionism threatened to overwhelm. He cherished her brilliance, her determination, her boundless heart. Their love was not flawless, but it was enduring, strengthened by honesty and respect. They raised children with same values that had guided their own lives: courage, compassion, and integrity. In Ron, Hermione found partner who balanced her, who reminded her to laugh even when work consumed her. Their marriage was testament that opposites can complement, that differences can weave stronger bond. For Hermione, love was not escape but partnership, shared path toward better world. Motherhood revealed new dimension of Hermione's courage. With children Hugo and Rose, she poured same dedication into parenting that she had once given to books. She encouraged their curiosity, nurtured their independence, guided them with patience. She told them stories of Hogwarts, of bravery and friendship, though she softened darker parts into gentle lessons. Her love was fierce, protective yet liberating, determined not to smother but to empower. She believed parenting was not control but guidance, offering children tools to find their own way. In balancing career and family, she faced new challenges, but she met them with same resilience she had shown since girlhood. Her children grew knowing they were cherished, supported, and trusted. In them, Hermione's legacy of courage and compassion lived anew, extending flame into future generations. Hermione's return to Hogwarts after war was bittersweet. As visitor, she walked halls where she had once studied, now scarred by battle but slowly healing. She paused in library, in Great Hall, in Gryffindor Tower, remembering laughter, fear, triumph. She honored fallen friends by cherishing memories, speaking their names with reverence. For her, Castle was not merely school but crucible where she had become who she was. She encouraged new students, reminding them that courage was not limited to great deeds but lived in everyday choices. Though she never taught formally, she mentored younger witches and wizards with wisdom hard-earned. Her presence reminded Hogwarts that war had not destroyed spirit of learning, that resilience lived in every stone. For Hermione, revisiting school was act of gratitude, homage to place that had given her wings. Hermione's leadership at ministry eventually brought her to highest levels of government. She became Minister for Magic, first Muggle born to hold office, a milestone that reshaped history. Her tenure was marked by reforms, dismantling discriminatory laws, strengthening protections for magical creatures, modernizing education. She governed with combination of intellect, fairness, and compassion. Critics accused her of idealism, but she countered with pragmatism sharpened by war. She believed power was responsibility, not privilege. Her rule inspired new generation, proving that courage in classroom and battlefield could evolve into courage of governance. She carried herself with humility, remembering roots as daughter of dentists who had once felt outsider. In highest office, she remained true to values formed in childhood: justice, equality, and unwavering faith in knowledge as path to freedom. Hermione's influence extended beyond politics into culture. Authors wrote of her as symbol of intellect and bravery. Artists painted her likeness. Musicians sang of her defiance. She became role model for young witches, especially Muggle-borns, who saw in her proof that heritage did not define destiny. Her speeches were quoted, her reforms studied, her life admired, yet she never sought fame. She considered herself servant, not icon, preferring to focus on work. Still, she understood power of example, and she accepted role with grace. By living authentically, she inspired without effort. Her legacy was not only laws changed, but hearts lifted. She reminded world that courage could come from library as much as battlefield, from kindness as much as spell. In her, many saw possibility of better world. Friendship with Harry endured long after war. They became godparents to each other's children, visited often, shared counsel. Harry trusted Hermione's wisdom in personal and professional matters alike, and she trusted his instinct and loyalty. Their bond, forged in youth, matured into siblinghood. Together they reflected on past with mixture of sorrow and gratitude, cherishing victories while mourning losses. Their companionship offered solace in adulthood's demands, reminder that they were never alone. Hermione valued this friendship deeply, knowing that few could understand weight of their shared history. For her, Harry was not chosen one, but brother of heart, proof that family is chosen as much as born. Their enduring bond was quiet triumph of love over war, symbol that friendships forged in fire can outlast even greatest darkness. Hermione's bond with Ron matured too, shifting from youthful quarrels to enduring partnership. They faced challenges, disagreements, stresses of work, parenting, but they navigated them with honesty. Ron's humor softened Hermione's seriousness. Hermione's determination steadied Ron's restlessness. Their love was not without flaws, but it was resilient. They grew together, learning patience, compromise, and joy in shared life. For Hermione, Ron represented home, not place, but presence. His laughter filled spaces with warmth. His loyalty reassured her in moments of doubt. Together they built life rooted in simple pleasures: dinners with family, walks through garden, nights by fire. Their love endured because it was chosen daily, renewed in countless small acts of care. Hermione's heart found peace in this steady flame. As years passed, Hermione became figure of wisdom for Wizarding World. Young witches and wizards wrote to her for advice, and she answered with patience. She lectured at conferences, published articles on law and ethics, championed causes often ignored. She balanced authority with accessibility, willing to listen as well as lead. Her reputation grew not as untouchable figure but as approachable mentor. She remained learner at heart, always curious, always questioning. Even in high office, she found joy in discovering new ideas, in discussing theories late into night. To many, she represented possibility that brilliance, compassion, and courage could coexist. Her wisdom became guiding light, shaping policies, inspiring movements, and nurturing dreams of countless others. In her, world saw proof that intellect, guided by heart, could change everything. Even in adulthood, Hermione's thirst for knowledge never faded. Her home was lined with shelves groaning under weight of books, volumes old and new mingling together. She continued reading late into night, candle flickering beside her, parchment scattered around as she made notes. Curiosity was not duty but joy, lifelong flame that guided her. She studied new fields of magic, researched forgotten spells, explored history of wizarding law. To children, she taught love of learning not as chore, but as adventure. To colleagues, she modeled humility, of never believing oneself finished with growth. Her love of books remained sanctuary, same comfort it had offered at 11 years old. In pages she found peace, challenge, and hope. Knowledge, she believed, was not end, but beginning path toward better world. Hermione's speeches as minister often centered on fairness. She reminded listeners that equality was not gift but right, that justice was responsibility of all, not privilege of few. She spoke with passion but also with reason, weaving facts into stories that touched hearts. Crowds listened because they believed her. She embodied ideals she described. Her words inspired young witches and wizards, particularly Muggle-borns, who saw in her proof that barriers could be broken. Each speech was more than rhetoric. It was promise. She promised to build a world where children would not fear prejudice, where beings once dismissed as lesser would be treated with dignity. These speeches became quoted in textbooks, studied in classrooms, whispered as encouragement before challenges. Hermione's voice carried far beyond podium, echoing in lives of those who heard. Despite power and recognition, Hermione remained grounded. She visited childhood home often, walking familiar streets, recalling girl who once waited for Hogwarts letter with restless excitement. She never forgot roots, never allowed fame to distance her from ordinary joys. She enjoyed cooking with her mother, sharing jokes with father, laughing with family around table. To neighbors, she was not minister but Hermione, bright-eyed woman who still cared deeply. This humility defined her as much as brilliance did. She believed titles meant little compared to kindness. Those who met her often remarked how quickly she put them at ease, how sincerely she listened. She carried greatness lightly, aware that pride could corrupt. By staying humble, she ensured her heart remained open. To Hermione, humility was quiet, form of strength. Hermione's legacy lived through her children as well. Rose inherited her sharp mind, Hugo her warmth and humor. She encouraged them to carve paths of their own, not as reflections of parents, but as individuals. She taught them courage of curiosity, bravery of kindness, importance of justice. She watched with pride as they entered Hogwarts, walking halls where she had once studied. She reminded them that mistakes were part of growth, that perfection was not goal, but persistence. In her children, she saw flame passed forward, brighter for having been shared. Parenthood reminded her that legacy is not written in monuments, but in lives touched. Through Rose and Hugo, her influence extended into new century, weaving into fabric of wizarding world with every step they took. Hermione's life after war became story told in classrooms, whispered in common rooms. Younger students read about her in history books, admiring courage and brilliance. Yet stories could never capture full truth. Her laughter, her moments of doubt, her quiet acts of kindness unseen by most. Her legacy became both myth and memory, living in ink and in hearts. She accepted this duality with grace, knowing no history could capture every detail. What mattered was that lessons of her life endured, that knowledge and courage could stand together, that compassion was strength, that justice was worth pursuit. She hoped future generations would not idolize her but be inspired to find bravery in themselves. For Hermione, legacy was not pedestal but mirror, reflecting possibility in every new student's eyes. Hermione symbolized harmony between intellect and courage, Where others saw divide, she united them. Her life proved that brilliance need not mean arrogance, that bravery need not mean recklessness. She embodied synthesis of head and heart, mind and action. This balance made her role model across houses, not only Gryffindors. Ravenclaws admired her intellect, Hufflepuffs her loyalty, Gryffindors her daring, even some Slytherins her ambition. She belonged to all, transcending divisions. As symbol, she reminded world that qualities need not be rivals but partners. Her life was tapestry woven of many threads, each strengthening others. This harmony was reason her story endured, reason she inspired beyond her lifetime. She showed that greatness lies not in single virtue but in unity of many, guided by compassion's light. For many, Hermione was feminist icon of wizarding world. She challenged stereotypes, refused to be sidelined, proved her brilliance in face of doubt. She was never content to be helper or background character. She was equal partner in every adventure, often leader. She broke barriers not by seeking attention but by excelling, by refusing to diminish herself. Her advocacy for rights, her rise to minister, her achievements in every sphere showed future witches they could aspire to anything. She redefined strength not as hardness but as courage to care, to think, to act boldly. Her legacy encouraged countless girls to embrace intellect proudly, to pursue dreams without apology. She embodied power of woman, unafraid to stand tall in a world that sometimes doubted. Through her, many found permission to shine. Hermione's influence on Harry's survival cannot be overstated. Without her, countless obstacles would have crushed him. She deciphered puzzles, uncovered truths, guided strategies. Yet beyond intellect, she offered emotional strength that kept him from despair. She reminded him of humanity, of love worth fighting for. She grounded him when burden of prophecy threatened to overwhelm. In war's darkest moments, her loyalty ensured he never stood alone. History might have called Harry chosen one, but Hermione was chosen companion, irreplaceable in journey. She never sought spotlight, but her presence was light in itself. She proved that heroes do not walk alone, that behind every triumph stands friendship woven of courage, loyalty, and love. Without her, story might have ended in darkness. With her, it found dawn. Hermione's story illustrated that bravery wears many forms. Sometimes it is duel in corridor, sometimes it is late-night study session, sometimes it is raising voice in meeting, sometimes it is holding hand a friend in grief. She embodied all of these, reminding world that courage is not singular act but way of living. She taught that every choice mattered, that small decisions shaped great destinies. Students inspired by her realized they need not slay dragons to be brave. They need only act with integrity, speak with honesty, live with compassion. In this, she democratized heroism, proving it accessible to all. Her life was a reminder that bravery is not reserved for extraordinary, but lived by ordinary, who choose to do right. Above all, Hermione's legacy was love for family, friends, knowledge, justice, and world itself. Love guided her through rules and rebellions, through laughter and tears, through triumphs and scars. It was love that led her to erase her parents' memories to protect them, love that kept her beside Harry, love that bound her to Ron. Love was her compass, her flame, her strength. In end, all achievements, ministerial reforms, victories in war, wisdom in speeches, stemmed from this foundation. Her story whispered to all who listened. Courage without love is empty, intellect without love is cold, but with love, Every act becomes radiant, every choice meaningful. This truth ensured her place not only in history but in hearts, eternal flame of love that outlasted time. Hermione's life reminded world that healing is as heroic as fighting. After war, she worked not only on laws but on hearts, encouraging survivors to seek peace, to build lives beyond grief. She visited families of fallen, offered comfort where words faltered, stood quietly at memorials with hand resting on carved names. She did not forget, but she chose not to be consumed by sorrow. Healing for her was courage to live fully, to laugh again, to love again. She believed honoring the dead meant cherishing life. Her resilience became model for others, showing that even after deepest wounds, light could return. Through her example, many found strength to rise from ashes. Healing, she showed, was not absence of pain but choice to walk forward despite it. Hermione's friendships extended far beyond trio. She cherished Luna's eccentric wisdom, Ginny's fiery loyalty, Neville's quiet strength. Each friend added dimension to her life, teaching her lessons she might not have found in books. She learned openness from Luna, courage from Ginny, patience from Neville. She valued these bonds deeply, proof that friendship was endless tapestry, ever expanding. She cultivated relationships across ministry, across communities, bridging divides others thought impossible. Her ability to listen made her beloved, her integrity made her trusted. Through friendships, she built networks of hope that strengthened Wizarding World. She knew no one could build future alone, and she welcomed allies warmly. To Hermione, friendship was not luxury but necessity, fuel that sustained her. Her story proved that true leaders walk never alone but among companions cherished. Though Hermione achieved greatness, she remained tenderly human. She laughed at Ron's jokes until tears streamed, lost herself in novels unrelated to magic, burned toast when distracted, misplaced quills in piles of parchment. These imperfections endeared her to those who knew her, reminders that even extraordinary figures stumble in ordinary ways. She embraced these flaws with humor, no longer perfectionist child who feared mistakes. She learned to celebrate imperfection as proof of life lived fully. Her humanity made her legacy approachable. Young witches admired her, not as unreachable idol, but as guide whose brilliance coexisted with blunders. She showed that greatness does not erase ordinary moments, but shines through them. This gentle truth ensured her story would never feel distant, but close, as friend's voice beside candlelight. In later years, Hermione became symbol of reconciliation. She reached out even to those once considered enemies, believing bridges must be built if society was to heal. She supported programs that helped Slytherin students shed stigma, worked with goblins to rewrite unfair contracts, and extended hand to centaurs long mistrustful of humans. Her diplomacy was rooted not in naivety, but in strength. She had seen what division created, and she refused to let history repeat. She believed forgiveness required courage equal to battle, that reconciliation was act of bravery few dared attempt. Her efforts changed Wizarding World profoundly, reducing centuries of mistrust. Through her, people learned that peace is forged not by forgetting past but by daring to reach across it. This vision became cornerstone of her legacy. Hermione Granger's legacy endures as eternal flame, guiding generations who whisper her name. Her story is told not only in history books but in bedtime tales, where children fall asleep hearing of a girl who loved books, who stood by friends, who faced darkness with unwavering heart. She embodies truth that knowledge is power, compassion is strength, and courage is choice renewed daily. Long after her lifetime, banners of scarlet and gold still flutter, echoing her presence. Students entering Hogwarts see her portrait smiling kindly, eyes bright with intelligence, and feel less alone. To dream of Hermione is to dream of balance between head and heart, to believe that even ordinary child can shape destiny. Her flame does not flicker out but burns across ages, whispering softly, "Be brave, be kind, be true."